Well, hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra here with Asp CMO Neil in his fancy new truck. And we got these trucks specifically to do some vehicle-based content.
Yep.
So today, we're going to talk about some of the stuff involved in getting a good shot at somebody who is a threat to you at your driver's door.
MagTech has maintained their high quality during the ammo panic and ramped production to the max. Their ammo is the only ammo I run on the range because of its performance and reliability. I recommend MagTech wholeheartedly.
You guys know this, right? So, number one solution to a carjacking.
Drive away.
Drive away, right? We want to drive off, but we may not be able to.
There's
right?
always a chance. We've seen a lot of videos where the car gets disabled because of, new safety features, and some of the newer cars will disable the transmission when it thinks it's in an accident. Yeah. Large crowds, and you don't really want to run over 300 people to get away, that kind of thing. So, right. There are reasons.
So there are times where you might have to use your firearm. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what those are going to look like and what our first things and thoughts are. Okay, Neil, first thing I want to talk about is, what do you do with your firearm when you get in the car?
I wear it. It stays exactly where it is all the rest of the day.
So you're going to see some gear reviews and stuff from the trucks and those things. And the thing that you're not going to see is you're not going to see any bullcrap car magnets. Now you got a console here, but it's not for stuff.
Right.
Now,
exactly.
I mean, it's not for guns.
Yep.
We don't stick it in between the seat. Stays right where it is. Now you're an appendix carrier.
I am.
And so, of course, what's my big challenge here is, my first big challenge is I don't want to point a gun at myself on the way out. I know some people who say, well, that's no big deal, it's just going to happen. Quite frankly, I think it is a big deal.
It is a big deal. I think it likely is to happen anyway, so that's why we have multiple layers of safety. It's difficult to draw from a seated position and not have that thing potentially. So you've really got to be focused, and on that moment, if you've practiced this and done it a few times, hopefully if the worst day ever happens, hopefully you can do it and mitigate as much of that safety as you possibly can.
So next thing I want to talk about is staging ourselves appropriately, right? So we put our seatbelts on all the time in the car because we're far more likely to get in a car wreck than we are to be in a gunfight, right? And of course, car wreck, a seatbelt will save your life, save mine for sure in a car wreck, okay? Next thing I do is I blouse my shirt out so that it is over my seatbelt. I don't ride my seatbelt behind my gun. I leave the gun where it is. I leave the seatbelt to set over my hips. I don't want my seatbelt in a weird spot. I think John Houtman at Filster did some great videos on this.
Yeah, there was some really good stuff on that, and I learned a lot from him in that.
So then the next thing, and I'm going to have Neil be the one to demonstrate this, is we got to watch out that, again, as we are now bent, right? So now we are at an L. So our bodies look like this now. We're not standing like this. We are now at an L. And so there is a potential to point a gun at ourselves as we're drawing the gun. And for us appendix carriers, the way that we get away from that is by kicking our hips forward, right? So what that's going to kind of look like here is when I get in this, as I clear my cover garment, I get my hips forward so that I can get my gun out without pointing it at myself. And then of course, one of the other things that we're going to work on here is that gun comes up and over. It doesn't cross over my legs. It comes up and over, so then that way I don't point a stinking gun at myself. And all we're going to do today is we're just going to practice that a few times. Neil's going to do a few live fire shots, because the reason that I really want you to kind of do some of these is I think most people have never fired a gun inside a vehicle, and the overpressure that you get doing so is pretty impressive. So we're going to do it with windows open here. Then I'm going to let him completely shoot out his driver's side glass. I'm really not gonna let him shoot out his driver's side glass. But we will do a couple where I'll roll this window up so we get even more of that overpressure so we can feel it. Now, of course, you're not gonna feel it as much because you're gonna have your hearing protection on, because you'd be a fool to shoot without hearing protection on.
Right.
But you at least get to feel that some, and then hopefully auditory exclusion on the worst day of your life covers the rest. Yep. So let's put our ears on and do a couple, shall we? So Neil, this time, nice and easy, right? So no reason to go fast. So you want to brace your feet, right? Get yourself a good position with your feet on the floor. You might be on the brake at this moment in time, right? And so, okay, fine. And you are going to kick your hips forward as you clear your cover garment with your support hand. Gonna get your full firing grip on the gun. Now, I would encourage you, tilt that gun so you're pushing in, so that gives you a little bit more margin for success.
Yep.
As you draw to your regular 2 position here, notice that muzzle, as soon as he did that, his muzzle cleared high. And that kept the gun away from him, away from his feet, away from everything else. Let your cover garment go. Now, you can, again, get your full firing grip if you want. Now, if you need to, as a right-hander here, I know plenty of right-handers who will simply turn their shoulders a little bit and get that gun out the window. We've seen that on camera many times, and get a couple shots on the dummy. Now, how many rounds have you fired from inside your vehicle?
Inside this one? Just two.
Just two, right? Inside any vehicle. You done a lot inside the vehicle?
No, maybe a couple of mags here and there. I did a class one time on it that was mostly, you know, fantasy tactical band
Tactical
camp.
fantasy band camp,
So
right?
a little. Yep.
Now, so again, now how do I safely holster inside here? I don't. Quite frankly, I don't do that. So now we want to be very cautious as we do that. So you're going to take your support hand off the gun, keep the gun pointed downrange. You're going to unlatch your seatbelt using your non-dominant hand. Let that seatbelt go off. Then you are going to get out of the vehicle while pointing the gun in a safe direction, stand up, and safely, carefully, reluctantly holster. Now, the other one that we want to talk about today that I think is a really good one is now that you had your window open.
Yep.
Okay. Now, did you want to have that gun all the way out there with a guy, a target who is that close?
Probably don't.
Okay.
You know.
So would you prefer, I think there's a couple of techniques here that we can talk about in order to do this. First one is I can come from a thumb pectoral index, but it's actually going to sneak forward into a front of the pectoral index and get some indexed fire on this guy and probably still get perfectly acceptable hits. Now, of course, the thing I don't want to do is send it forward this way and turn my shoulders into him, because then I'll foul the slide, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
I still want to keep my thumb high and on the side of the slide, and I will sneak this around here this way and let the shots break, and then the slide is reciprocating on the side. So you want to try that one?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so he's going to put a seatbelt on, get it set correctly, all that stuff.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to safely draw. We're going to kick our hips forward, get the gun pushed. That races from there. Now, again, there you go. So you've got a unsighted fire here, or a very rough index. Now, you notice that you turned your shoulders into him?
Yeah.
I want you to keep your shoulders forward here. And again, so now we can use our thumb as that place that it's on us, and we can get acceptable hits from here. Go ahead.
Ooh.
Right in the neck.
That's a lot of pressure in your face, too.
There's a lot of pressure in your face. So the fact of the difference is that you had the gun inside now this time rather than out the window, and that overpressure was much more significant.
Exactly.
One last thought from in here: if you are, say you have your glass up, right? So you don't want to get inside there, right? You can't stick the gun out of here. It just isn't going to work. So the other way is you've got to actually turn you. Okay, and turn the entirety of you if you need to get a sighted fire on this guy, or even if I want to shoot from a compressed position.
Right.
Okay, so the way that I'm going to do this is that once the gun comes out, right, you're actually going to turn your hips into him. All right. Yes. So what you're going to see in here is you're going to actually wedge yourself. You're going to get wedged back and your shoulders way back, and basically you're going to put your back up against this and push that back, and now you can have both hands on the gun close to you and still get the hits that you need.
Right, because with the window up,
you can't stick your gun out the window.
Do a contact shot on the glass.
Okay, so let's try that. So again, you got to get your cover garment set correctly. Okay, safe and careful unholstering there. Gun is out. Now you're going to kick all the way over here. There we go, and his gun is inside, and you can still get on that guy from inside. Now, of course, first one's going to break the glass, right?
Yep.
And we're not going to play with that, in this kind of environment, because you don't want to buy new glass on your brand new truck.
I'm not excited about that.
So safely, carefully holster. And those are the basics of getting a gun out and on target from his seated appendix carried position without pointing a gun at yourself,
right?
And in the draw in any capacity. Now, that said, best way to practice this, probably a SIRT pistol.
SIRT pistol, dry,
Yeah, dry. Now, if you're going to do this dry fire, if you live in an apartment complex, you ain't doing this in your apartment complex in dry fire.
No, I think you need to be in a garage while you're doing this, or somebody's going to call 911, and
you're going to attract unwanted attention from the local constabulary, right? So, but I think that this kind of stuff, we've seen a lot of vehicle-involved incidents on the channel.
Yep.
And so, having some practice time with this, getting an understanding of how to draw safely and those things. Not a lot of people have the kind of range like you have out here in South Dakota.
Right. It is nice.
But doing this, I think, is important. So guys, give it a try.